The morning sun had barely risen, casting long shadows across the quiet streets. But for Samir, the single father of a 7-year-old boy, the day had already begun. His alarm had gone off at 5:30 a.m., just as it did every weekday, and he had mechanically prepared breakfast, packed his son's lunch, and kissed his little boy on the forehead before sending him off to school. Life for Samir had always been a delicate balancing act, a job at a mid-sized company, endless bills, a small apartment that never felt big enough, and a little boy who deserved everything in the world. But that morning, destiny had decided to put him to a test he would never forget. On his usual route to work, the streets were unusually crowded, the traffic moving slower than molasses. Samir's mind was already racing with the schedule he had for the day, deadlines to meet, meetings to attend, and promises he had made to his team. He always prided himself on punctuality, knowing that being late could cost him more than just a reprimand. It could cost him his job. But as he approached a busy intersection, he saw something that made his heart stop. A heavily pregnant woman had fallen near the roadside, clutching her stomach, her face contorted in pain. Cars were honking, people were hesitating, unsure of what to do. Samir didn't think. He stopped his car abruptly, rushed over and gently lifted her to a nearby bench. She was trembling, and he could feel the urgency in her situation. His mind screamed at him, "You're going to be late. You can't afford this." But his heart overruled. He held her hand, asked simple questions, and called emergency services. Her breathing slowed as she started to calm down, and Samir refused to leave until the paramedics arrived. By the time he got back in his car, Samir's watch read 9:47 a.m., 47 minutes late for a meeting that could determine his career. He had always been reliable, never a minute late, but today, compassion had cost him dearly. When he arrived at the office, the receptionist avoided eye contact, and a sense of dread settled in his chest. He walked to his manager's office, his stomach twisting with anxiety, and was immediately greeted by cold, unyielding words. "Samir, we can't overlook repeated tardiness. You've been warned before, and today's late arrival is unacceptable. We have no choice but to let you go." The words hit him like a physical blow. Fired. Just like that. His hands shook, not from anger, but from helplessness. Losing this job didn't just mean a loss of income. It meant losing security for his son, losing the fragile balance that held their lives together. Samir left the office without protest, nodding silently, each step heavier than the last. Outside, the world seemed indifferent, bustling with people who had no idea of the life that had just crumbled silently in their midst. As he walked home, Samir's mind replayed the morning over and over. He had done the right thing. He had helped someone in need. But at what cost? Could he have chosen his son's security over compassion? Could kindness really be punished in a world that prized deadlines over humanity? These questions gnawed at him as he entered his apartment, where his son ran into his arms, unaware of the storm raging in his father's heart. The following weeks were a blur of applications, rejections, and mounting bills. Every day was a battle to keep his son fed, clothes washed, and the apartment warm. Nights were spent lying awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if the universe had abandoned them. Samir refused to despair, but despair often found him anyway, sneaking into quiet moments when the world seemed to sleep while his worries never did. Then came the twist of fate that Samir could never have anticipated. One afternoon, while delivering resumes in person to a few companies, he noticed a billboard outside a sleek, modern office building, a new branch of a company he had admired for years. Nervous but determined, he entered the lobby and approached the front desk. "I'd like to see if there are any positions available for someone with experience in management and customer service," he said, trying to mask the exhaustion in his voice. The receptionist smiled politely, but said he would need an appointment with the HR department. As he waited, he saw her A striking, confident woman walking briskly across the lobby, carefully cradling her large belly. Something about her face stirred a faint memory in Samir's mind. Then it clicked. It was the woman he had helped that morning, months ago. The one he had risked everything for. Before he could react, she approached him, her eyes locking onto his with a mixture of recognition and surprise. "I know you," she said softly. "You helped me, months ago, in the rain. You saved me." Samir's heart pounded. He nodded, unsure if he should speak. The world seemed to shrink until it was only the two of them in that vast corporate lobby. "I've been looking for you," she continued, her voice steady, carrying an authority that made the air around her tense and electric. "You didn't know it, but you helped more than just me that day. You reminded me why I do what I do, and I've never forgotten it." Her words were unexpected, almost surreal. Samir, who had been struggling to survive, now faced an opportunity he had never imagined. The woman, he realized fully now, was no ordinary person. She wasn't just successful, she was the CEO, the owner of the entire company. And she was offering him a chance, not just a job, but a lifeline. Within days, Samir was interviewed and offered a position far beyond what he had dreamed possible. But it wasn't just about the title or the salary. It was about recognition, about humanity being acknowledged in a world that often overlooked it. His son watched him walk through their apartment door one evening, dressed in a crisp suit and holding the offer letter. And for the first time in months, his little eyes sparkled with hope. The transition wasn't instant. Samir faced skepticism from colleagues, the weight of his past struggles, and the lingering fear that this too could vanish if he faltered. But he poured himself into his work, drawing strength from his past hardships. He treated his team with fairness and empathy, just as he had treated the pregnant woman months ago. He reminded himself every day that integrity and compassion were his true compass. Meanwhile, the CEO, her name was Aisha, watched him quietly, intrigued not only by his professional capabilities, but by the depth of his character. She had seen countless resumes, countless interviews, yet no one had carried themselves with the resilience, kindness, and quiet dignity that Samir exhibited daily. It was as if the act of saving her that day had revealed his true nature, one that could not be taught or faked. Months passed, and Samir thrived in his new role. The company recognized his dedication, clients trusted him, and his life stabilized in ways he had never imagined. But the most profound change was in his relationship with his son. They laughed more, shared small victories, and dreamed bigger. Samir realized that sometimes life's harshest setbacks were disguised blessings, and compassion, the very thing that had cost him his old job, was now the key that unlocked his future. One evening, after a particularly long and successful day, Aisha invited him to her office. The office was bathed in golden light as the sun set over the city skyline, the air tinged with anticipation. She handed him a small envelope, her eyes soft but piercing. "This is more than just a thank you," she said. "It's a recognition of what you truly stand for. You risked everything for someone in need, and that courage, that heart, it's rare. I want to offer you a permanent leadership role in the company. You'll have the freedom to implement the changes you believe in, to lead not just with strategy, but with humanity." Samir's throat tightened, and he could barely speak. This was more than a promotion, it was vindication. It was proof that kindness, even when it seemed punished, was never wasted. He felt a swell of gratitude, not just for Aisha, but for every struggle, every sleepless night, every moment of doubt that had led him here. As the weeks turned into months, Samir's story became known within the company and beyond. Employees admired him not only for his professional acumen but for his empathy. He became a living testament that compassion and integrity could coexist with success. And every time he looked at his son, he saw in his eyes the affirmation that every sacrifice had been worth it. life had a way of surprising those who never stopped believing. Samir had been fired for being late, punished for doing the right thing, yet that very act of courage had brought him into the orbit of someone who would change his life forever. He had learned that the world might not reward kindness immediately, but sometimes, in the most unexpected ways, it circles back bigger, brighter, and more beautiful than we could imagine. And so, every morning, as he walks to work, dressed in the suit that once seemed like a dream, Samir remembers that rainy day, the fear in a stranger's eyes, and the choice he made. He remembers that life doesn't just test us, it shapes us. And if we meet its challenges with an open heart, even when the world seems unfair, the universe has a way of repaying courage with miracles. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you believe in the power of kindness and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your engagement helps spread stories that touch hearts and remind us all of what truly matters. In the quiet moments, when Samir tucks his son into bed and listens to the soft rhythm of his breathing, he whispers a silent promise to live with compassion, to act with courage, and to never doubt that even the smallest act of kindness can change a life sometimes, even your own. Before we end, if this story touched your heart, comment below and share what act of kindness you've witnessed or experienced in your life. Your stories inspire others,